conversation with our elders and our icons from the Gambia. Today we are at the Bajaan Theatre, which is the creation of a very dynamic woman, a Gambian woman, by the name of Bajaan Young. Now with me in this conversation is Professor Abdoulaye Saine, and it's going to be a very progressive conversation, and I will take as much time as possible so that we can get the best out of this woman who is a reservoir of knowledge and experience. Welcome, Janet. Perhaps we may want to start by asking you where you were born and your origins.
Okay. Yes.
Can you tell us briefly about your background, your origins, where you were born, and your early childhood experiences?
It's been a long, long time, so I have to really go right back to where I was born. I was born in Banjul, in the Gambia, of course, and it's a country that I adore. I love my country. I think the people are so beautiful, and you know we are simple folks but warm, full of kindness, and that I adore. So I was born in Banjul in Newtown, where all the Creoles used to live, and my uncle was D.T. Davis. Some of you might know of him or about him. He was Accountant General at one time, and I went to the Methodist Girls High School, and after that, I sort of got my school certificate, of course, and then I went to Britain to study drama. I would like to say that it was during my childhood days that they discovered that I had some talent in acting. And in fact, I was really quite good at it, although I did not think at the time then that it was something I would pursue as a career. But it so happened, fate is something, really. It so happened that towards the end of my school year, my fifth form, from 5, we were looking at careers that one could go into easily. And my principal called me to her office and asked me what I would like to do. So I said I would like to act. And she looked at me straight in the eye and said, "You're not going to make any money doing it in the Gambia." And she was right. I mean, because I know now what a struggle it is to make ends meet with the theater, you know. So she said, and it just happened, it was like a miracle. She was listening to BBC and African service, and she heard about this young man called Ali Ganda from Sierra Leone, who was at Rose Bruford doing speech and drama. And it's according to as the interview went on, she discovered that you could teach drama. They taught you to become an actress. I mean, all the stage art, you know, stage management, carpentry, dance, you know, poetry, verse speaking, all. But you could also teach it in school. And of course, in those days, they wanted teachers in the Gambia. So she thought this was the way I could go into it. But the interesting thing about it was that soon after I left school, there were scholarships going. The government gave, of course we were under colonial rule at the time. But there was a lady, now I forget her name, and she was the education officer. And she said, "No way can I go and do drama. Gambia doesn't need drama. We need teachers, perhaps teachers of English. But not drama." So what happened was that she went on leave, and the director of education was a very good friend of my principal, Miss Nora Senior. And of course, as soon as she left, I got that scholarship. And away I went. So those are the beginnings of my life. But I think what happened to me was that in school, drama, poetry, music, dance were all encouraged. And I think if you don't have that, even from the nursery school, reading stories to children, and I can remember now reading a story to my grandson. At one time he said, when I asked him, come and read a story to you, he said no. So I opened the book and I began to read. I suppose the expressions and what I was saying, he crawled, he came and he came here. He was enthralled. And this is good. This is the way, first of all, it's a language. I'm not saying that even in Wolof, you could do it in Wolof. You understand it. And stories often also about human nature, and what's happening. And it's enthralling. And it gives you a chance to go into another world, a world that you are not in. And I think that makes children also want to read. It encourages them to read. And acting is a way of knowing human nature. You see, and it's a form of communication. And I think you can't go, beyond that, because most people just think, you're just acting, showing off on stage. But if there's a message in the play, if the play is well written, then you get a message across because it touches you, it reaches you.
Well, growing up in Banjul,
and the masquerades.
And the masquerades.
And the conquerants. When the conquerants, I used to. My grandparents used to live in Macau.
Yes.
Right. And you hear this drumming, and they were very good at producing conquerants. Oh my God! But was I scared of the conquerant? As soon as I saw. I would run, and where would I go? Under the bed. I was so scared, But now, of course, I see it, as a ritual, and we can learn a lot about that background information about it, and that one can utilize. So those masked devils also tell you a story, and even our own stories, local stories. Often we ignore them. As if, well, it's not important, we'd rather read something like by Agatha Christie or something else, But they do tell you stories. I mean, I was fascinated by a story, Bajaan Young's story. I don't know. In fact, I wrote a play about it. That's what I do from the stories. I wrote a play about Bajaan Young. And often, what got me, the story is about two men of equal status. I think I'm going on too long, because that's a long story.
We can digress now and then.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But it's a wonderful story because the two men, one was very rich. He could do anything with his money, and of course he loved a lot of women. Another one was a fisherman, and he was also wealthy. But of course, being a fisherman, people, did not like the idea that he had all this wealth, and it was just what they would say a common fisherman. He was not a businessman like the other. But what fascinated me about the story was that he used his wisdom and his skills and taught young boys how to fish, whereas Bajaan Young did not do that. You see, and that grabbed me, because I think when you look at it, often people think that we're always begging from overseas for people to help us eradicate our poverty. But there are people too, Gambians that lived long ago, who asked to teach at Crab Island School. I was teaching drama and English, of course, and I enjoyed it. I found the kids very endearing. I really liked that. But I don't know, it was as if I was also doing theater with the old students of my school, my former high school. Now, I did not think I was doing what I really wanted to do. And Gambia is a tiny place. It was as if I was being stifled. It was as if, you were not free to do this or go there, and people were always gossiping about what you were doing. And of course, I had your father as my principal.
Surely
we fought a lot.
I can understand.
I think it's probably we both had the same personality. Usually that happens in class. Yes, Anyway, But anyway, so I do some school plays. I taught some kids. In fact, some of them still remember me trying to teach them speech songs so that they would improve on their speeches. So then I had done radio at college, and I was very good at that too. So I thought, why don't I do radio? But then we didn't have a radio station here in the Gambia
At the time.
At the time, see. But they had a radio station in Sierra Leone. So that was where I applied for a job, and they gave me a job as a senior producer at Sierra Leone Broadcasting Service. So that was where I went, and I enjoyed that. I say to people, if you really love what you do, time is of no essence. I mean, you just go on and you just put everything. I would work Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evenings, great, And of course, I married a Sierra Leonean, so that was equally nice. And again, I had a drama group going. I always do that. It's everywhere I am, I have to have a drama group. So I had a drama group, and I started off by saying, let's do a play. And I got the play, of course it's a British play at the time, and I said to them, well, I don't have money to buy costumes for everybody, but you buy the costumes yourself. Then after the play, but it was a hit, it was a hit, and everybody enjoyed. I think I did more than one play. Got married, of course, and then my husband went to do his doctorate at Harvard, and I went with him, and I started a family, of course. I didn't do much with my own education as such at that time. But then when we got to Freetown, my husband decided that he would, and when I was in Freetown, I worked with the students at Forobe, because that was where my husband was. So again, I taught drama, we did plays together. It was very popular, they loved it,
I remember in 1959, I school.
Oh.
And the impression was huge, because this was the first time ever I saw that the backstage was decorated, and we've done a lot of paintings of huts and village scenes. So that impression still lingers in my mind.
Goodness, I didn't remember that.
And I was a boy at the time, and then I asked, who's doing this? And they showed me. This is the one responsible. But anyway, it's amazing. Okay, we're moving on now. In Sierra Leone,
I did lots of plays with my friends. Even my what do they call it now? Something for Mr. Charlie. I forgot the exact title, but it was to do with racism, of course. Even in those days, Blues for Mr. Charlie. It was called as the title, and James Baldwin was the writer, and we did it at the university. And I think what happened with Floyd is the same thing that we were talking about in the play. So from Sierra Leone, then my husband got a job in Nairobi, Kenya, and by then I had 2 children, and so we went to Kenya, and in Kenya, I will say that what I found there was that they had a national theatre, of course, and they had a small theatre. They called that the Barn Theatre, and there were some South Africans who were doing some theatre, not really, that much, but they were doing the best they could. And so when I got there, I don't think I planned to do that much, but my husband, of course, met a fellow called James Falkland, who was really a great artist, and he was really good with backstage as well as acting, everything, directing. And he mentioned, oh, my wife does theatre, and so I was roped into it. And then I decided, this is one-sided. The British would bring artists from England to do shows. They had it was the Donald Valmore Theatre, and there was nothing African about it as such. You see. So I said, I'm going to start my own theatre. So we called it Tamaduni Players, means cultural players, Tamaduni in Kikuyu. But what was interesting, I was able to, Nairobi is a cosmopolitan city, there was a very beautiful lady and very talented lady called Mumbi Wamaina. And she joined me, and so together we trained the students, And in fact, most of their top artists now, I trained with her, we worked together. So that was very rewarding. And then I had the opportunity to go overseas to do my master's, in communication. So I went to Boston University and I did that. And when I came back, I still did a lot of theatre. And some film, I did film as well.
And film?
1 or 2 films, yes. And then, after some of the plays I did there were quite a number of plays, and also meaningful. I always think there has to be something worthwhile in the play for you to put on. And so the last play I did in Nairobi was called Aching Matter. And when I saw the standard that I had achieved at that time, I didn't like talking about myself like that. I thought there's nothing more you can do in Kenya. But they had a different outlook. They were very keen, and I would say, here if I say come to a rehearsal on a Saturday, we have to cook, we have to do this. When it's a public holiday, no, Auntie Janet, we can't come. But with them, it was heaven. Because we just said, we have a rehearsal, they're there.
Let me just look at it. I have a friend who is from Kenya, in Nairobi, and he studied at the university in Nairobi. And once we're talking, he's into theatre and drama and stuff like that. Then I asked him, there was a Gambian woman in Kenya by the name of Bajaan Young. He said, no, wait a minute. A Gambian woman? I said, yes. He said to me, no, that's a Kenyan woman. I said, no, don't you take her away from us. She is ours. Yeah, so you did make an impact. Absolutely.
Yeah. You had the writers, and you have Buki Wasiongo, and and it was a healthy environment to discuss with. In fact, I remember doing a play by a Kenyan, and the play was called Dead and Kimathi. Dead and Kimathi was a hero, and some of them at the university did not quite like the portrayal of that character, And I had to say to them, that is his own version of it. So you write your own. I think they did write their own.
Absolutely.
We have the right to speak up or to say what is in our mind or to express how we feel. So, but it was a healthy, I really enjoyed my time in Kenya in terms of the theatre. But also they had all the facilities. They had a theatre there. They had a place that you could rehearse. And the university had a hall which was like an amphitheatre, beautiful. And the thing was that they also encouraged you to use it. They would say, what are you doing? In fact, I remember at the museum, they opened a new building for the museum. And the director of the museum, sorry, names sometimes go just fly, but he asked me if I would do a play there. And I did an African play, The Gods Are Not to Blame. I think you probably know about that. It's a Oedipus story, but the African version of it. And as I said, it was really good. So the atmosphere was there, the environment was there, the support was there.
It's good that you mentioned it, because that is written about you, portrayal yourself, and be your own.
Do your own.
And I think that's important. I mean, I was impressed when I came here, and I was here when you did the master in Susie.
Oh yes.
And that was very touching. I still see that girl.
Yeah.
And since then, she's become extremely confident.
Okay.
Yeah. But moving on from there, okay, after Kenya, you were there for...
But I was also employed by the United Nations Habitat as their information specialist, and I was in charge of the African countries, so I would promote Habitat's work to those colonies, which I enjoyed very much. But towards the end of 20 years, I thought we needed to move, you know, and I was fortunate to get a job now as the UN Information Director in Port of Spain, in Trinidad, you know, yes, you know, so I went there as the director for the center. And what I did there, I thought was useful for the UN, was that I used theater, and you know, they're very talented people, musicians, you know, dancers, to promote the work of the UN. You see, oh God, that sounds like mine. As they had, for example, it was the first environment conference, I think, at that time when I was there, and I got the musicians to make songs about the conference in the state of the environment, particularly for small island states, because they thought with this, if they were not careful, they would just, the sea would just wipe them all off, you know, the surface of the earth. So that was what I did. And then another, I remember then, for drug abuse and all that. So what I would do was invite drug addicts who have been cured to go and talk to schools. And that was very successful. You know, and some of the stories that I heard from them, you know, was really horrifying. But at least the children came face to face with people who misuse, abuse drugs. Yeah. So that was I really enjoyed my stay there. And also what I did was, whenever there was a UN special day, for example, Day of the Child, we would get together, have the children do some plays, you know, competition. And I did that for the environment as well. In fact, I found them very encouraging, very supportive. For example, when I got there, I said I would imitate in a small way what they did for Carnival. You know, in Carnival, they all dress up in masks and, you know, they go out and they meet. And I said I wanted to do something similar, on a very small scale, but for the environment. We would invite various schools and they would design floats. Yes. And then we would meet together, and then poems and music, and it was fantastic.
Yes, I can imagine.
You know, I mean, they just eat it up. And the thing was, I went to the minister, and he said, that's interesting. He said, we've never done it before. He said, oh, we can try, we can do it. And I thought, my goodness, how many countries will you go to? First of all, to see the minister would be some wahala, some problem. And then you get to see him, and he says, yes, go ahead, and he gives you all the help and support that you need. My God, you know. I just thought it was a beautiful country, you know. And of course, what I used to introduce them also to our food, our culture, you know, the Gambian culture, the West African culture. So we really got on.
I was going to say that perhaps there were lots of commonalities.
Exactly.
Between Gambia
and Gambian. Yes, and the expression. They are like us. I think what I have, you know, they can let go. You see, sometimes some of us are very proper, prim and proper. And what I enjoyed most was when they gave a party, somebody gave a party. Minister, head of state, whoever you are, you go, but you pay your way through. You pay a fee, and you are there with the cleaner. Yes, and you're all there, and I think, wow, this is great.
All having a good time.
Yes.
Was it something similar? Our friend was talking about Hassan?
Yeah.
When we talked about the section is drinking at another end. So in the end, we had the one.
Yes, very
civil service top brass.
We are all human beings.
Yes, right.
I used to enjoy that. No, really, they had no class distinction as such. You know, so that was great. Yeah.
Then
after Trinidad, I was posted to Lagos, Nigeria. That was a big post.
Big change.
Yes, and a big contrast. But again, very exciting because more people, more artists. They also had lots of artists, creative artists. So that too, I had a go at, and I enjoyed that. In fact, one of the things I remembered was I think it was the 50th anniversary of the UN, and we didn't seem to be doing anything there in Lagos that I thought was meaningful at all. You know, and I was kind of upset, and I thought this was the time to really explain to people what the purpose of the UN and its achievements, what it has achieved for humankind. So what I did was, and I said it was not only for the ambassadors, we wanted the local people to be part of this. So there was a princess, and I called her and asked if I could meet with her to talk very nice. And I said, I want to do something spectacular. I said, but I don't want everybody, even the market women. She said, the market women? I said, why not? And so she said, well, we used to have a boat race at one time, but during the colonial time. I said, well, we don't do it anymore. I said, it's going to be a boat race then. After that, what we do, we will have roast meat and some drinks, beer. I said, it's okay, fine. So I called my boss. It was also very good in New York. I said, Mr. Sandby was called. I said, Mr. Sandby, I said, you have to help me out with this because I've already said yes. And he said, fine, no problem. So of course we had posters, we did all this, and then it was by the sea. The ambassadors, if you saw them with the boats and a regatta, it was just perfect, yes. So those are moments of my life that I sometimes, sit and think, So I retired from Lagos. I think also what I learned is how hard-working Nigerians are as a race. They will work non-stop to achieve something, and I thought that I was inspired by that, and also they were very, what shall I say, courteous, very mannerly, never rude, abrupt, no way, very nice. So I learned a lot from them there. Then, of course, I retired in 1997. I was 60. So I retired and I came home. Now I thought, all right, we were able to build our house before we arrived, my husband and I. He was with the UN, also with the refugee program. So he had retired 2 years before me. So we came, and I don't know. I thought I was going to horticultural affairs. I love plants and stuff. I thought I didn't want to deal with people after the job.
After all those years.
You never change.
But that did not last long. It did not last long, and I thought, well, let me try the schools. Let me do a play with the schools.
And before you know it,
you're back to
And what you don't know is that after every production I will say, never again.
Yes.
Never, I'm not doing this is too much, I'm not doing it. You give me 1-2 weeks gone and I'm thinking, now what am I doing? I've been cursed. Yes, so that first play with the kids was made possible by the late Reverend Willie Kah, who died recently. He was the headmaster there and opened arms and he received me and said, yes, you can use the students. And I found a lot of talent there. In fact, one of them, Fatu, the last name has gone. She was a minister here. She was a minister of communication, I think. No, not Fatuma Sio. No. Fatim Baji. Fatim Baji, yes. She was last year in school that, she took part in the play. What I did actually was, it wasn't a play as such, but it's a beautiful poem called Song of Lawino and Song of Ochol. It's a poem. And it's about a village woman who had this handsome husband who went to study in England, and when he returned, he rejected everything that was African. Yes, you see, and the woman was saying, this is us. Why must you reject us? And So then I had three girls playing the same role, each in different sections. So that was stimulating for me. And I thought, you should not stop. You should still persevere. So then in those days I used to do the rehearsals at Alliance, Franco Gambia, and I didn't think I was treated well there, So there was a problem of where to rehearse, where do you rehearse? So this went on for years, and then of course I started doing very classical plays, and I tell you what, there were some young men, they were my age group, who supported me 100%, like Felix Downs Thomas, the late Felix Downs Thomas, Joe Jai. Joe Jai was a young guy then at the time, and there were some Europeans too who were interested in joining us. But I remember Sammy Davis, was one, and what is his name now? Charles Saad, yes, they were really good, and Marcel Tomasi, I mustn't forget, beautiful. We had the dramas, of course, always at Alliance. And when I started, like when I did the Song of Lawina, which was the first production I did here, but we said roughly 24 people came, not many. But by the time I'd been there 2-3 years, the hall used to be the outside, the amphitheater, the outdoor theater would be full. And it was also, so I thought, at one time, I did plays with kids as well. And I thought, this is too much of a hassle to be doing a production. So when I tried a place like the club in Ajara Club, again the noise, people passing by, and because it's, you are using some of them, thought, why would I be using it? I just felt, this is my country, I thought. I should be able to do what I want.
Absolutely.
In a place that is comfortable for me, And then the idea came to me, why build your own? Yeah, why don't you have your own? Well, it didn't start off as me having a huge theater, So I sort of said, well, ask for the land, then you build a small thing that you can be rehearsing. It took 5 years to get the land. 5 years. Yes. And I remember a director of land said to me, once I asked him, I said, I'm fed up going up and down these stairs. I said, am I getting this thing or not? This land or not? He said, never.
Never.
I said, we'll see. Never. So, but I kept at it. I pushed them. I would go there. And eventually, helped by my nephew, Kebba C.A, he was once the director of lands. And he was a very patient guy. I remember once I was raving at this director of lands. But I was absolutely fed up, by the way he was treating me. And I said to him, just say you can do it or you cannot. Then I stopped, because all this coming, I don't know what they wanted, maybe bribes, I didn't know what it was. But I didn't have that kind of money to be giving bribes to anyone. So eventually though, I got the land, which was something, and this is the land. And then now to build the theater.
Getting the land was the easy part.
This is something so I had already got a design for the land for it, and then a friend of mine said, she said, you should go see what's happening at Sanyang. So you should go see the buildings they have there, So I thought, this one I know about her. Said, she's going to show me some mud hut, because that's what they think Africa. Which is true. That's what that's what they think we should be always doing, So I went to this place and I saw this room. It was a small room, and it had this dome, and it was mud bricks. I thought, my goodness, this is my answer. you know. So then I had to have an architect, the people who built it. I said, well, can they do one for me? And Son Nicole was helping me with the design. Then there was a young fellow also from England who was also an architect. And we came to this, so I would say what I wanted, and the stage, and the dressing rooms, and bit by bit, you see my windows are all the African music, the instruments, as a frame, So this is how we have Bajaan, and it will be 10 years old tomorrow.
Congratulations.
But I got thanks, not tomorrow, next year. But what I was saying, what I want to say is that some of these UN agencies are very helpful. We mustn't just think they're there and staff are getting a lot of money. I think some of them are genuine. For example, it was the UN Res Rep who really helped me with this project. I was able, you see, what I had done in the past was to be saving money, because I thought, put some money aside in case you want to do something with it. And so I had something to start to do the foundation, and even actually up to the walls. But when it came to the finishing the windows, the doors, that was what needed, needed the cash. So I went to see her in her office and I explained what I was doing. And I said, we could train students, and this could be an opportunity for them to use their skills for economic reasons, results. So she said, are you sure? I said, yes. I said, you see, people only see it as entertainment. Well, there is the entertainment. You can't make a lot of money from the entertainment field. But besides, it is communication. I said, I train them. They will be able to do radio, television, and this is exactly what has happened. Although some of them have gone to
other things,
the back way.
I saw the play here last year too. It was moving, it was fascinating, it was very instructive, very provocative. So congratulations.
Thank you. I didn't know that. So some of them are scared to back with it from male actors. We have to have another search for some. But example with UNICEF in terms of doing adverts, on certain issues, which is good. In fact, I saw them on this coronavirus, So there is. Not only that, it gives them the confidence, the poise, and they can go into any job really if they put their minds to it.
Job training at the same time.
Yes, that's right, So there we are. So here we are. That's how my life has been. In the meantime, of course, I lost my husband. Yeah, he died. And he died 3 years after we got here. So it meant then that I just concentrated on the theater. So that's in a way, that's what happens. You have to accept life. Yeah. But I still think that our educational system should push more in terms of introducing the schools into a lot more realistic drama. What also happened was the Netherlands government, they wanted to stop students going back to the back way. And this play of mine. So I said to them, instead of just doing a play for people to come to the theater to see it, why don't I go into the schools? So we went to about 11 schools, can you imagine? 11 schools. And the children were cast into different roles, and they acted the play to the whole school. I'm telling you, it was just unimaginable.
Did you have plans to organize training sessions?
Yes, I did.
For musicians and people in the arts?
Not really. Again, you have to get the funding for it. I tell you what was disappointing, what I find disappointing about this whole setup is that I have not succeeded in students owning it. Maybe it's my fault, you never know. But for example, it's a very bright guy, I'm not calling names, and he was able to get some funds to do open a music school, which of course has filtered out to nothing, And I thought to myself, well, you could have asked if you could do it here. You see what I mean? But I suppose they want the cash for themselves, you see. So there are things like that, you know, they like to go on their own, which is, in a way, it's a good thing. I have to really come to terms with that. You cannot tie them down to what you want. This is my own vision, which I've realized. They may have their own visions, they want what they want to do with their lives. But I think it will be stronger, you know, if they continue. Because I wouldn't be able to continue forever. It's a natural, you know, life story. So it would be nice to have them, you know. And there was one I was very disappointed with who, in fact, I sort of saw him here as a possible, he would be responsible for the theatre. And he decided, he said he was going to be a Muslim, what do you call them now? He was going to this religion, And I said, but why? He said, because he said Islam is not compatible with the performing arts. So I said, really? I said, I think the Allah you know and the God I know is a creator. He's an artist. He's an artist.
He had to be.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, what? It creates all this beauty, the sun, the sea, the sky, the animals, the birds. And this is the God we pray to. You're telling me that's not compatible with art and music? And then I said to him, well, all the musicians I know in the Gambia are Muslims. I will have you know.
Absolutely.
You know? So maybe, you know, often you don't know what their ulterior motive is. You don't know what he has in mind. But, you know, so that's the story of my life.
Could we discuss some of your plays, maybe one particular play that comes to mind? I know you've done a lot of them. You've done quite a bit of them, and they're most social commentary, criticism, educative, and all that.
Yeah.
Is there a theme that undergirds?
I said okay, let me do. For example, I did The Ultimate Inheritance.
Yes.
What is my first play that year? That Ultimate Inheritance, although I've not published it, was because there was AIDS. It was really to promote, to send a message as to how to protect yourself against AIDS and all that. But I wove it into a story which included women's rights to land. And it might seem a bit far-fetched, but what it was is that when AIDS came into that village, all right, and the son was sick, they all blamed her because she was educated, and they blamed her on that. And she said, okay, I'm leaving this marriage and I want my land. I want land. I'm not going to work for you anymore. So it was intertwined, you know. So that was really telling them about AIDS and what you do to prevent AIDS and all that, more or less. And also a bit of women's rights, because how they accuse women of sayings and they're subjugated to men and all that. So that's one, the ultimate inheritance. If I can remember now, there are many of them. Was that one talk about AIDS? Yes. And also that play, Ultimate Inheritance, also talked about prostitution and with the way men are using women, you know, that sort of thing that came into that. That was one of the first plays I did. And again, I did that in Wolof and in Mandinka. We translated it and did that. That was, I mean, in fact, what we did at that time, which was innovative, we went to the centers, like, you know, after Brikama, there's I forgot the name of the area, but we went there. It was like a football stadium, but they had a little stage, and we performed there. And we performed by the cemetery here, where the, oh dear. Anyway, it's around the roundabout before you can get to the land's office. There's a sort of, what is it called? Anyway, it's an open space, yes, it's an open place, and you know, it's free, people will come in and to see it free. What are the shows of course, can I have, if the books are up there, some of them are there, and I can tell you about them. Please, It also was a child abuse for child abuse, and those who will treat the girl child, hand of fate, and early marriage. It's all about early marriage and what happens to children when they marry at the age of 12. And mind you, it's a true story, You know this. You know she was minister of health at one time, Bajaan.
Yes, Fatma.
But when I heard her story, it's amazing how these things happen. I was in Nairobi and she came on a conference. She's a beautiful woman, very dynamic. So she came I invited her to the house, and there were other people there. And she was talking about her life. And she told me how at the age of 12 or 13 or so, how she married this man from the Congo. And she had a boyfriend and all that. She left. And she said when she got there, and her stories here. So I used that, for the hand of faith. Of course, you don't do the exact thing.
Absolutely.
So the hand of faith was one that also went off very well. Then there's the Korah.
The Korah.
Yes. How the Korah came to the Gambia. This is a beautiful story about the Korah. Similar to, there are these people who want eternal life in the European stories, and they give their soul. I think it's Faust who gave his soul for eternal use.
Yes.
If I'm correct, It's the same thing, it's the same thing here with the Korah. The Korah is about a young man from Mali. It's beautiful. It's a young man from Mali, and the fellow who told me died. Is a young man from Mali, and he said he was coming from Mali. And in those days, of course, you didn't need a passport. He was just strolling around, and he came to a little village by Yondo. And he went there, stayed in the village, and he liked the village, and the villagers liked him. So he said it was time. He felt it was time. He wanted to settle. He wanted to settle. So he went to the chief and said, I want you to find me a wife. So the chief said, okay. He called a meeting with the elders and said, he wants a wife. So who can we give him? So we don't know him that way. We don't know where he's coming from. No, not our daughter, We're not giving him. But one of them said, well, I know what I can do. He's a nice guy. He says, there's this girl who hides herself all the time. She doesn't come out, and she doesn't seem to like the sun, and her skin, she was an albino, but then, she was an albino, and was always there. Well, so why don't we give him this girl, And so one of them said, well, you have to tell him that she's different. He said, no. If we test his character, let's see how he behaves when she enters his house.
Right.
So of course, festivities, drumming, and she goes to his house, and the others go, and he takes off her veil, and he sees this albino woman, and she of course wants to run away, and he says, no, don't run away. You are beautiful. You are different, but you are beautiful, and I can see from your eyes that you are a fantastic woman. So as soon as they got married, the next day she said she wanted to leave the village. So he said, well, we've just got married. He says, no, I'm not comfortable here. Let's go. So they go on a horse, and they jump on the ride, and they get to San the bush, the area with the beach and everything. It's beautiful on stage. And so she noticed, as soon as she gets there, he goes to look for food, to hunt for something. And she's lying there, and she hears this beautiful music. And she felt presence that things were around her, but she couldn't put her hand to it, That happened the first day. So when he came back, she was frightened. She said, I don't know what's happening, but I could hear voices. She said, oh my God, what have I got here? And he said, so he goes and he lies there. But what I do is to make them speak their thoughts. As he's saying, what have I done? This woman, what is he talking about? And she's saying, he doesn't believe me, he thinks I'm a devil. So then they appear to her while she's sleeping and say, as soon as we saw you, we fell in love with you, we want you to go with us to our place. She said, I can't do that. said, well, you have to make a choice. You go. He says, no, I cannot do that. It's my husband and I love him. I can't just leave him. He said, okay, we'll see. So they play this music around this man while he's sleeping. And then they leave. And he wakes up and he says to her, I heard the most beautiful music I have ever heard in this world. She said, I don't know what it was, you know. And they had this instrument. Oh, and you know, the strings. It was as if they were playing the strings of my heart. And she's looking at him. and he said, if only I could own it. If only I could play it. You know. And so the spirits came back and said, aha! So you love our music, and cutting it short, you love our music. When you have something we want to, we can give you the kora anytime. It's called the kora. They even showed him how to play it. He said, you have to give us your wife, and then they said, no, I'm not going to do that. No, way can I? This is my wife, I love her. And he clinges onto her. And of course, they begin to cry, you know, it's very touching. He says, no, you know, I can't let her go. And then she says, take it.
Take the kora.
Take the kora. That's what you want. So it shows in life we have to make choices. He says, take the kora. I will be with you. I'm going with them. But I will be with you. Whenever you play the strings, you'll be by yourself.
You know, it's fascinating that you tell us about the...
Yes!
Because for the last 2 weeks, in this community of Gambianist scholars, we've been discussing and debating the origin of the kora.
You see?
So this is very timely.
And our story
Yes.
is consistent with the story of Manfia. And I think Jory said the kora had an extra string. And when the woman went into the cave and disappeared, he played, I can't remember the end of the story, but in the end, he removed one of the strings as a mark of honor and respect. I think that's the end of the story. But anyway, as Lai is saying, we've been debating this.
You see?
The past few weeks.
Yeah.
And it is interesting.
No wonder. Well, you can take it and we'll read it.
Yeah, that's very
We'll do that.
That's very kind of you. Yes.
That we have actually brought back the theatre artists into the land of the living since the 50s after we left.
Of course, I think I can say that. But I think this is only the biggest. More to do. I think for me now, I think what I want to push more is to get school children involved. Because I think they are the future. Because we have a lot of culture. We have a lot of finer things, even the music, the dancing, the consigned. I mean, you know, things that we don't have in Europe, we don't have in other places. And Nigeria is a good example of what they've done with their own arts.
Well, some of the things here are actually dying out.
Well, they're dying out because we are letting them die.
That's like Fatu Jamal. Fatu Jamal is like a Muppet show.
You see, they don't, yes.
You don't have it here. Marigo.
Yes.
Well, I think the young, you see, this is the sort of thing, I think I'm really now a bit tired, to be quite honest with you, to be rushing around these things. So, for like, the consigned and all these things, a big festival, you know, and then you judge them, you know, and then you record what they do, you know, and then make little cassettes out of it. It'll be something. Because we are losing it, and you see what is happening is the young are imitating Europe, America,
Jamaica.
It's they're imitating. It's nothing like getting your own, you know, respecting your own, you know.
I think you've already started a nice conversation about what a national policy could potentially become.
Good, yes.
If you were in a position to advise the current or future governments, what would you say to them in terms of resuscitating, bringing back the culture that we've
kids from their, first of all, you have to have teachers trained in the arts.
Yes.
Not everybody can do this. Teachers, music teachers, from the word go, from the beginning. Then our own, the writing of books and plays and music, making music, competitions, school competition. In fact, when we were at school, it was not so much a competition, but the prize giving day. I think they do have it here. They do have some. They have some schools. But we're thinking of the real essence of it. The music, incorporating music, the dance, that sort of thing. If the schools, for example, I'm telling you, this is a good story about. I wrote a Chains of Inspiration was a UNESCO project, and what I called it Chains of Inspiration because I picked out Gambians as well as Sierra Leoneans who made a difference to their countries when they got back. They came back and actually improved or did things for the community. I chose them. And there's a Gambian called it will come. Joiner. That's it. It's good. I'm not that bad.
You're better than I am. It will take me another hour before I remember.
It was from a Creole group, you know them, and he was taken as a slave, and he was working in America somewhere. Anyway, he was able to. They said it was very good. Though. It was so good that they made him in charge of the other slaves. And then when he was freed, he became a businessman, and he was trading with other countries. He had a ship and everything. And he came to the Gambia, and he trained young people, into the business of shipping. Yes. And then there was a Fuller guy. Also, he was a Fuller prince.
Many of them,
Yes, that's right. He was called. He came back. Yes, that's right. And of course, there is she's a poet. Phyllis Whitley. Yes, she was also from here, but they said that Senegal has claimed her. She's also in the story of her life and what she did, all in drama. So this was what we did. And then of course I was in Sierra Leone. There's this fellow also he's at a mutiny on board the ship, but he went home also, So that's it. So UNESCO gave me funds for this, and there's a teacher's book to go with it. And he was supposed to go to the schools. Never heard anything about it. Whether the books are still in somebody's cupboard or not, they're just not interested. They're not interested in that. And we're still not part of the West African Examinations Council. These books and the plays that they have there, we don't have any Gambian there. As if we don't write. Your books too. Your books there, yes, you should be there.
You see, apparently, it is the numbers that matter when it comes to deciding whose book they would choose for the school curriculum. Apparently, it is the numbers that vote against you. Because you line up so many of you. But
anyway, it's okay. It's not that I want it that much, but it's just an interest, and I think when things are happening in the Gambia, it's a lovely place, as I say, And if we keep at it, it will be a paradise. That's really what I think. It's small and manageable. You see, it's not, it's not Nigeria, for example, you could say, but we could, and we had I think the saddest thing is that we do have the people that can do it. Even people who can even train others to do it, but as if it doesn't work. I don't know what else to say. But we have to be hopeful.
I was just saying that perhaps if there's a way of nudging the decision makers into creating an atmosphere where such events can happen.
Because they themselves don't have the background. They don't have the experience. They don't appreciate it.
Yes, that's probably.
But you know that it was to do with light. I've forgotten but it was a UN program, and they asked me if I would do some drama to entertain them, and just light. It was just it was the anniversary. We had a beautiful show here, like the rainbow, because of the light and how light came to being, and how the creator darkness, and then there was light and the rainbow, and how what people did, and how it was it could blow your mind. So we do things like that as well. Not all of them are published, of course. And the last I did something on cancer too, not so long ago. An awareness for cancer. Beautiful, but not long, not about 2 or 3 scenes, and that came off well.
Any future projects?
But I'm But there are children's plays too that I've done.
Yes.
I've done there's a children's play. I've forgotten the name now.
Yes.
Children's text messages to God.
I read this one. He said, "Oh God, I want to do 100 things today, but I need a babysitter."
No, that was, in fact, that children's text messages to God. If you have 5 or 6 kids and you're talking about God and the different names God has, and then there's this text if you can reply the text. And from some of the things they did was for the environment. In fact, I'm going to beat it up a bit to talk about coronavirus. And they went out to clean up, and they're complaining that we have to do this, and most people sleep when they should be, and what they do with their garbage, But I'm keeping it, because I said it seems as if I have barriers all the time. But when I was in America, thank God our children love to read. We all read a lot, So I picked up a book from the shelf, and it said, the title was, "It's Our Time to Eat." It's Our Time to Eat. And it's based in Kenya, and it's to do with the Arab Boys government when they left Kebba came. And really the gist of it is that Kebba did the same thing as, so I thought that this is very typical of here too. And so the idea I have, keep it to yourself. Animal Farm.
Yes.
You know the story.
Some animals are more equal than I just used that in a writing idea.
You did? Yes. So that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm working on. Making it very Gambian oriented. And the story is that you have a young couple they've just studied, they've come back, and they meet in a bar, eating an afra and that sort of thing. And a fuller guy, friends, they're asking him what they should do. And the woman is a lawyer, and the husband is studying political science, and his ambition is to become a president. And so the guy says to them, "Don't do that. Don't go into like politics. Don't. You're a lawyer. What will you get? You won't make much money. Go into farming." You see, so it says, "Okay, go into farming." And so the guy said, "No, we don't want to go into vegetable." He says, "No, don't go into vegetable farming. Go into animal farming. Cows, goats, sheep. Chickens. So he said that will bring money." And we said, "Now really, this is what is on." So he said, "Well, there's a farm I know that's being for sale. It's called Farato Farm. So why don't you see what you can do with that?" So they do. They go. They buy this farm, and they start rearing chickens, and it's quite successful. But this fellow spent all his money drinking in a bar and talking politics because he wants to. So the animals are not looked after. Sabel. So now the animals take over. But the animal that takes over, guess which animal should be the animal that takes over?
Yeah, because okay.
Yeah, the donkeys take over.
Yes.
Because they say they've been used so much.
Yes.
And this is their time now.
Yes, the donkeys especially.
Yeah. So that's the way the story is. I've started working on it. If I'm not interrupted, I think it will work.
Should.
But what I love, the scene that I'm working on, actually, I love it. I love that scene. So what I do is I get a parrot to be there. You know the parrot name?
You can
Yes,
repeat
mine.
it.
Yeah, and they tell the story.
And it is a parrot. When the fellow, the wife has to leave him because he
Yeah.
was always drunk, so he's alone. So he goes to this place. I put the place by the sea, you know, by the tourist area. That's where whenever the place there that they go.
Young Gambians who are coming up as writers, potential prospective writers.
Yes.
What kind of advice would you give them?
And you have, the thing is, you just don't write just for the sake of writing. What influence will your writing have? Like, for example, when you write, all the books that you write, when somebody takes it, we're learning an awful lot, you see. But it doesn't mean that it is stiff, it is full of humor, you know, you can say a lot of things, you know, because I think here we're too satisfied, you know, and young writers can practice, and you know, and people can help them, you see. But I think I mean, I would not say that they are not trying, they are trying. I think sometimes they don't have the support, you know. I mean, even if there are people here who could help, but even if they can't, they could always get visitors to come, volunteers to come and help them do things. Or the best way is to read other people's work.
Yes.
That's it. Read and see what did they do here? How did they do this? You know. His skill with herbs, he refused to. And then his wife died or so. I don't know why that was the story. But it was like, if you were in a village, he did not have the village setting in his mind. So he said, a ship comes. I said, where would a ship come from to a village? This is an ocean.
Yes.
So then your setting is wrong. You know what I mean? And then I forgot what else I said. Then he said he had his man when the man died or somebody died, they put the coffin. So I said, stage-wise, you cannot do that. It won't. Yes, you see what I mean. So I said, but you have some good points. What you are trying to say is, you know, teach younger people the skills because they are the ones who will, you know, promote it after you leave, you know. So I'm going to harass him. I'm going to call him and say, did you do what I said?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Let me ask you one question. Are you working on someone who is going to take over Bajaan Young's work?
I don't know.
Grooming somebody?
Grooming somebody?
It's hard. I've
It's
thought
not
of
easy,
that.
I
It's
know.
not easy. It's to find somebody, you see. When you think, okay, this person can do it, you know, then you find you're wrong. They're not interested.
Like the guy who went Islamist.
Yes, like that one, you know, yeah, like that. And then there were others, you know. Well, one was very good. He was writing his own plays, I'm telling you, that was so good. And I would just help him brush it up a bit. So he did a film, also on Backway, and the opportunity to go to the Netherlands. And he called me. I think I was in America. He sent me a note, can I write him a recommendation for the visa? So I sent back to him, I said, you sure when you go you will come back? He says, Auntie, yes, I will come back. Wrote him a growing thing. I said, he has a future in films. He has a future in films. Yeah, I'm telling you. And now he writes his own scripts, you know. So he hasn't come back. It's 2 years now. But somebody said, didn't you know his wife was there? I said, yes. You could have, I didn't know his wife was there, but you could have said, Auntie, I want to go. You know, my wife is there. Well, I said, okay, go and come back, and then you can go again, then they trust you. You see, but when they go now, they're sitting there doing nothing, I'm sure.
Yes.
Or some minimal thing. It's so difficult to get a job.
And it's difficult to write.
Yes.
You have to have time.
Always looking over your shoulder.
Yes. So these are two people that I thought would have. They are off. In fact, there's one also who, well, he's not even a Gambian, and I really don't put any restrictions to who learn. It's the same continent. I'm not like that at all. Again, when he got married to somebody who was in the States, of course, before when we asked him to do something, he's too busy now. He couldn't do it. This was when my award, Tufts Award, he couldn't dance. Before you know it, and I said to Grace, who is a tremendous friend, I said, Grace, I could see that his attitude had changed, and I was in fact saying I was going to drop him. I do that. I say, let's just drop him. Don't ask him to come again. And so he went to the States, had a wedding here for his sister. Didn't even pay for the hall. Yeah, they do it. So I don't know, maybe God will help me someday, somebody will come. But there are one or two I have, that's why I'm trying to, I don't give up easily.
Yes.
I don't give up easily. I'll try, and God gives me some strength, I'm sure. So if I'm 82 and I'm still moving and doing stuff, so that's,
That's something.
I'll make a comment of the camera, please.
Performance.
oh my, well, you see, there's nothing happening, nobody will, well, you dare not. In fact, I was working on a beautiful production. What did we call it? The Amazing Daughters of Eve. The Bible stories, so we do Jezebel, we do Mary, the Mother of God. Beautiful with music and dance and all that. We had to stop that. So, but I'm afraid that when we say we can go back to normal, people will be hesitant. So I think give it next year. I think this year,
We can do right.
write it off this year. Do what you can in a little bit. What I think I will do is to concentrate on repairing the theatre. As soon as the rains are over, to do things like that. So that's it. That's all I can say.
And I'm just curious to know, who are your contemporaries in
My
Gambia?
who?
Your contemporaries.
My contemporaries, Adelaide Foster, you probably don't know her.
Yes, I know.
Adelaide Foster, we were in class together. There's another one called Hannah Oliver, she used to be called. Yeah.
Okay.
But they're looking much older.
Hannah Foster, was she Miss Foster at MT?
Adelaide Foster, she was.
No, Miss Foster.
Yes.
She teach at the college?
I don't know they did that. Unless such is the dynamic. I think it's never to be till you succeed. And they're always, I think if you're sincere, whatever you want is for others, not just for yourself, I think you succeed. And of course with God's help.
Yes.
If He wants you to do it, then He will do it, But I think in the Gambia there are some really good people, as I said before, and I think it's just getting their support who can do it. Look, somebody like, I always think Taff is such an incredible gentleman, He's giving so much, yes, he really gives so much. And it's helping the young people. I think for us, the young people, the concentration should be. If we want a better Gambia, but I always say to them on the theatre, I said, my ghost will always be around.
Absolutely.
Well, what might be interesting to do for the young, very dynamic men, they're part of this community that we are members of, who are doing little things. I think those little things can be put together and perhaps we can work with them. I don't know how we're going to put this all out.
Yes.
This might be a message.
Because of the energy level, and the fact that I have the theatre to run, that is, I still have not got somebody that you can rely on, that you can say, okay, the theatre is yours. You see, just do what you want. That is my biggest problem, But I think I will get. I'm looking, and I think I will find somebody who will be able to do that. And Grace is helping me out to see, particularly with the students from the university. And she's been teaching them. She's doing a tremendous amount of work.
Grace, isn't she from Guyana?
Yeah, she's from Guyana, but she's like a Gambian. The way she acts with the students. In fact, it's a funny story about that. We should not be on.
I don't know, we don't know where
What
we're
is
going to end,
yeah.
but we're going to finish it.
Okay.
And we'll share it with other people and see what they think.
Yeah.